bonjour.
So, hello everyone, can you hear me?
Yes, hello.
Hello, hello, hello.
So hello and welcome to this new webinar organized together by the Liaison Office of the European Parliament in Luxembourg and the European Commission representation in Luxembourg with the support of our colleagues in the Lithuanian representation. My name is Untitled. I am the representative of the European Commission here in Luxembourg, and I will take you through this one-hour webinar. So thank you for taking your time to join us today to discuss a topic which has sadly managed to set aside the COVID crisis and which has cast a climate of deep concern all over the world. I'm speaking about the unprecedented military aggression against Ukraine by the Russian leadership. With this webinar, our aim is to provide you insights into this new crisis based on the experience of two people who are directly concerned by what is happening. In the end of this webinar, you will have gained, I hope so, a deeper understanding of the situation in Ukraine, as well as of the reaction of the European Union. And obviously, today is also about showing our solidarity with Ukraine and its citizens. Dear participants, we want this to be an interactive discussion, so feel free to ask questions at any time. You can write them in the chat box or in the comment section, and we will collect them all along the webinar. We are speaking English during the webinar, but feel free to ask your questions also in Luxembourgish, German, or French. The webinar
Recording
is live
in progress,
on Facebook, and it is also recorded. So let me now introduce our two speakers. First of all, we have Marius Vaščega. Marius, please, can you raise your hand? Marius has a long-lasting experience in EU public affairs and is a top-ranking Commission official. He has served as head of cabinet of Commissioner Sinkevicius, who is in charge of environment, oceans and fisheries, and has been appointed this month head of representation in Lithuania. Lithuania, which is a country which shares a border with Russia and has a common past with Ukraine. Thanks so much, Marius, for having accepted our invitation. Then we also have Nicolas Zharov. He's the president of the association LUkraine, representing a Ukrainian community in Luxembourg, where he has lived since 16 years. His association is working frontline these days to help organizing humanitarian aid and transport of Ukrainians trying to get out of the country. Nicola, these are very busy times for you, and we are all the more grateful that you could spare time to tell us more about the situation in Ukraine and about your efforts. As head of representation myself, my role is to explain what the EU does in the various fields of competence and what it means for different stakeholders. So I will be happy to answer also any questions you might have in relation to EU action in the context of this crisis. Before kicking it off, 2 points. First of all, I would like to point out that a new website has been put in place by the Commission specifically dedicated to EU solidarity with Ukraine, and you can see the link in the chat box along with the LUkraine website of the association, where you can find out how to help from Luxembourg. Second, I would also like to give the floor briefly to my colleague Christoph Schröder, who is leading the European Parliament's office in Luxembourg, to give us a few impressions on what's going on the side of the European Parliament in relation to this major global crisis. Christoph, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. Schöne guten Mittag, alle Guten. Welcome
to everybody. It's a pleasure to talk to you today. If I look outside, the sky is blue and clear, and yet we know that there are dark clouds over Europe. The European Parliament has reacted to the aggression of the Russian aggression in Ukraine quite timely, as has the European Union. This Tuesday, the European Parliament held an extraordinary plenary session to discuss the situation and the offensive in Ukraine. And it was a very moving plenary session, not least because we had direct addresses coming from Kiev. On the one hand, President Zelensky took the floor, and on the other hand, the Speaker of the Ukrainian Parliament, the Rada. And I think that was a very moving moment for all the members of the European Parliament. We had quite an extensive debate later on with all the leaders of the different groups and further members of the Parliament. And in the end, the members adopted a very strong resolution with a strong majority. 637 out of the 705 members voted for it and called for additional and tougher responses to Russia. The European Parliament also wants us to work towards an EU candidate status for Ukraine, so opening up a possible enlargement process if all the prerequisites are met. The European Parliament calls for stronger sanctions against Russia and is also behind the weapon deliveries and the protection, of course, of the refugees that are on their way, that have made it already into the European Union and that may decide to do so in the next days. And the Parliament also expressed its wish for targeted sanctions against individuals and also highlighted the very critical view, the golden visas that were given to wealthy Russians in the past. This morning, if we talk about cooperation between the parliaments, this morning still our President Roberta Metsola had a meeting with the speakers of the national parliaments and the speaker of the Ukrainian Rada. And out of that meeting, we have clear signals that the parliament will set up and look into possibilities to support the work of the national parliament in Ukraine if the situation there becomes even more critical. So there is practical support from the European Parliament, and the European Parliament supports also the actions taken by the European Union, by the other institutions of the Council, of the Commission, and is ready to go further.
Thank you very much, Christoph, for this insight into the work of the European Commission. In order not to lose any more time and to give the main speakers the floor and also the participants to put in questions, I would like to give Marius the floor now. Marius, as I said, Lithuania is really close to what's happening in Ukraine right now. You are closer than all of us here in Western Europe. You share a border, a direct border with Russia, and you have a common past with what's happening right now in Ukraine. This might be really painful for you, for the Lithuanian citizens. Does this remind you of past times, and what's the situation like in your country right now? Did you see this coming?
Thank you, Anne, and thank you, Christoph. Hello, Nicolas. Hello, everyone who is tuning in into this event, and thank you for inviting me and allowing me to share the insights from Lithuania. Indeed, Anne, as you were saying, you know, I'm someone who has been quite a long time in Brussels and working for the European Commission and in various institutions, also in the Parliament and so on. The latest of which was really until very, very recently, until Tuesday, when I came back to Vilnius as a new European Commission's representative in Lithuania. And you are completely right to say that Lithuanians are really concerned. They feel the pain for Ukraine. Kiev is 650 kilometers from Vilnius. 650 kilometers. This is really close. Indeed, Lithuania shares a border with Russia, with the Kaliningrad district, which shares the border with Lithuania and Poland, and also with Belarus. So, but also, I think what is even more important is the memories that Lithuanians are having from the 1991, when Lithuania was really, trying to get out of the Soviet empire at that moment. And there were events in 1991 where the Soviet troops were rolling in the streets of Vilnius. But nevertheless, the wish and the willingness for freedom, for democracy, persevered, and Lithuania managed to get out of it. Of course, the moment was also helped to do that, but also the strong will of the people. And in the years from the 1991 to 2004, Lithuania was very strongly on the European route. The process took some time, but it took, I think, from 1995 to 2004 in totality. But Lithuania also managed to join the European Union, managed to join NATO, and actually has been really developing from that time. And if you would look at the economy of Lithuania and how it has been growing since 2004, as it has joined the European Union to nowadays, you would see that these are the leaps. You can simply see how the European Union process can actually be helping countries to become prosperous democratic countries. So, but when we look back at the 1990, we see that at that moment Lithuanians were in the same situation as Ukraine, and that's why now looking at the 2014 events, when Ukraine was really trying to establish a really good democracy, a functioning democracy. And now seeing at all this crushing, at the invasion, at the war, it's super worrying for Lithuania. And for Lithuanian people, they really feel the pain. I have myself visited Kiev. Let me think to remember. I think it was in September, October last year with Commissioner Sinkevičius. We were traveling for an official visit and meeting the Minister of Economy and so on, and we could feel the willingness of the people, of the ruling coalition to be on the European path. EU has been helping Ukraine to be on that path already for a long time, since 2014. EU and Ukraine have the very comprehensive free trade agreement. So EU has been investing in the reform efforts and so on. So it's really, I must say, quite frightening to see what is happening. I'll maybe stop here to make it more comprehensive and inclusive.
Yeah, thanks so much for sharing your feelings and your impressions with us, Marius. I'm turning to Nicolas. Nicolas, do you, from what you get as reactions from your compatriots from Ukraine, what's the situation there? What's the feeling of these people? We can only imagine the fear and the worries they all have now. What's the echo you get from those you have been in contact with over the last week?
Hello, Anne, Marius, Christoph, and all the members. I would like to say good afternoon, but it's hard to say that it's good. As you all know, the situation in Ukraine is not easy. The shellings do not stop during the day and during the night. People in Ukraine, all as one, are fighting against Russian aggression, and we are all standing as one. Those people who are in Europe and those people who are in Ukraine are united as never before. I would like to say that I'm grateful for all the support we have and we get from all the governments and all the people. It's overwhelming to see that people really care about what is happening right in the center of Europe. And just to say that in Ukraine, Civilians, even civilian people are preparing to fight. So even though they don't have enough weapons, they are preparing Molotov cocktails and ready to defend their land. But there is a big but that unfortunately we can fight on the ground, but we cannot fight in the skies because we are outnumbered. And I would like to appeal directly to all of you that Ukrainian airspace should be shut off. That's the main message that President Zelensky gave, and that are supported by many members of NATO, but not all of them, unfortunately. As president of Ukrainian Association in Luxembourg, I can say that we are getting all kinds of cooperation from every side. We are doing the maximum, and I think that Ukraine has a great nation and great friends all over the Europe, and we have really a good back, and we are backing the Ukrainian army, Ukrainian civilians and people. Just to explain what's happening right now in Ukraine, yesterday, actually today, during the night, the nuclear plants, one of the biggest nuclear plants in Europe, was attacked. And hopefully there were some negotiations that the fire brigades could extinguish the fire. Now the situation is controlled, but the Russian troops are still attacking. So I would like that you all understand that that's not about the question of territorial integrity of Ukraine, but the question of world order that was established after the Second World War. Putin and his entourage want to change this. Lithuanians and all the Baltic states, actually, as well as Poland and Czech Republic, etc., they all know what it's like to live with Soviet regime. And that's what actually Putin, the president of Russian Federation, declared, that he wants to reestablish the borders that were set in 1997 regarding the NATO, of course. And my biggest regret is that he's looking to reestablish the Soviet Union 2.0 with Iron Curtain and all the benefits of this Iron Curtain. Another message I'd like to deliver is that Ukrainian people living in Luxembourg do not support any kind of oppression or bullying of Russian citizens living in Luxembourg. And we do understand that majority of them do not support the military actions of their president. And as Ukrainians, we do understand and appreciate this support, but unfortunately, not all of them are ready to use those freedoms that they acquired here in Europe and that they have already lost in Russia. And those liberties and freedoms actually is freedom of speech, and I think they can be heard. So I appeal also to Russians to go and to manifest in front of their embassies. They should be heard. There are sanctions. We are very grateful for all the support we get, but unfortunately the war is still going on. Civilian infrastructure is being attacked. The center of cities are being attacked. The buildings, hospitals, schools are being attacked. Children and civilians die every day. I don't know how many lives should Ukraine sacrifice in order for European politicians to understand and to avoid making the same mistakes that were made in 36, 37, when European countries tried to calm down Hitler's ambitions. I'm talking about Sudets, Czechoslovakia, Poland then. I hope we all understand the gravity of the situation. And it's not only about the peace in Europe, we are talking about the European peace on the European continent. We see that President Putin has installed the complete propaganda machine in Russia, Many social medias are forbidden now, as well as independent medias. Russian people do not get the correct information. Russian politicians do not communicate on number of deaths, and there are about 9,000 soldiers, Russian soldiers, that were killed. Many of them do not even know that they were sent to Ukraine to kill civilians and soldiers. Yeah, that's where my appeals to you and to Europeans. And I thank you once again for all the support we received on these hard times here in Luxembourg and all over the Europe and all over the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nicolas, for these vibrant statements, which we all heard very well. And I hope you get many more occasions, opportunities to explain the situation to the general public here in Luxembourg. Before giving you the opportunity to explain more in detail how we can help your association, I would just like to come back to what you just said in the end about the different ways information is vehicled from the Russian authorities and the Ukrainian authorities. We speak here about disinformation, one major problem which goes along with this war. Disinformation, I'd say, is something that the Baltic states have been dealing with for a long time. Marius, could you explain to us how this is being countered by the Lithuanian representation of the Commission? Because as a representation of the Commission, communication is very, very important in your daily life. How do you cope with this?
Yes, thank you, Anne. And indeed, I completely subscribe to what Nicola was saying. And just before going on the disinformation, maybe a few words that indeed this is not only an existential threat to Ukraine. This is an existential threat to Europe. This is an existential threat to the whole world, because you know, it's simply breaking the rules of the world as we know it. And this is coming also after many years of revisionist statements coming from Russia. This is coming from you know, many years of revisionist statements speaking, you know, about democracy and trying to redefine democracy as we know it, trying to impose a different type of democracy, as if there are many different types of democracies. But these were the statements in the past. Now, you know, it's with the arms that this is happening. Now, coming back to those statements and coming back to the narratives, because this is a clash of narratives too. It's for many years this is already a clash of narratives. In Lithuania, I think it was noticed in first time in 2014. After the events also in Ukraine at that time, that in fact a different type of narrative is somehow alive, not like a different type of reality. And this different type of reality a little bit depends on which channels the people are looking into, which information channels they are looking into. So what they notice that the information channels that are coming from Russia are actually very much you know, oriented into that different narrative. And when they were starting to look deeper, they were what they're doing, they are simply masquerading under the freedom of speech and freedom of opinion. But in fact, what they're doing, they are inciting, first of all, a doubt in the models of our democracies, in the strengths of our democracies, and lately also even inciting, quite clearly acts of aggression. So Lithuanian, media has noticed that in 2014, and a lot has been done to reinforce, the resilience of the people, the resilience of the media outlets on how one can be dealing with it. So the biggest online portals nowadays in Lithuania have sections and columns which are dedicated to debunking, to fact-checking, because it's very often that somebody just plants a fact which is not existent, and out of this some opinion is created. Also, the biggest portals have versions of the content in the Russian language, which of course contributes to spreading of facts-based news and information in Russian language. We have also an independent technology think tank and non-governmental organization which is called Debunk EU, and they even use artificial intelligence for checking the Russian language channels and debunking various myths. So this is what is being done from the side of the Lithuanian media. Now, what the EC representation is doing, we do two things. We do a little bit the same. We do two things. We do the positive messaging, and we do debunking in the media and social media. So, it's a swift information, of course, so that there would not be an information vacuum. Now we are acting also very strongly to send the messages to explain what the EU is doing and what is happening, in fact, in Ukraine. There is also a central service which we have between the European Commission and the European External Action Service, and that is the EU versus Disinfo, which produces the cards, rebuttals, also in the Russian language, and then they share them in English. We translate them in Lithuanian on Facebook, Instagram. We do it like this, and we are monitoring also our own social media accounts and reacting very quickly if there are, because in the comment section you can also be having very quickly some myths created, some disinformation spreading. So we are reacting to them so that they would not grow into something bigger.
Thanks a lot, Marius. And I would like to tell our people following the Luxembourgish representation of the Commission that you can follow us also on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, where we are posting a lot on the same lines than Marius' team, so debunking myths and fighting against disinformation. So this is a work we are investing in a lot. And I would also like to remind you that the EU has decided the suspension of the licenses of the Kremlin propaganda machine, Russia Today and Sputnik, so they will no longer be able to spread their lies to justify Putin's war. So this is also something really important which has been decided at EU level. And speaking of EU's action and reaction, it has been, I think, the last months, the last days actually, it's been really a turning point in the way the European Union reacts and is also being perceived at global level. The EU wanted to become a geopolitical player for a long time, hasn't really succeeded so, but I think it is fair to say today that the face of the European Union in the world has changed, and that we are perceived as a global player in this war. Many actions have been decided in a record time over the last days. I will not go into enumerating all of them. You have been informed by all the sanctions which have been taken. Nicolas, I would be interested in hearing from you how the European Union's action is perceived in Ukraine. What echoes do you receive from the Ukrainian citizens? Is it enough, or does the EU have to do more?
Anna, that's a good question. And the answer, I think it's obvious. We are grateful once again for all the support we get, but the war is still going on. It didn't stop Putin. So what else could be done by the European Union actually and from other countries is to protect Ukrainian airspace. That's the main message I would like to send, because as I said before, we can fight on the ground, we push, we stay, and we actually resist to Russian army, but the sky is still open. My family, my relatives, my friends sleeping in the cellars to be protected, but there is non-stop shelling. That's why it's important. It's important to close Ukrainian airspace, or at least provide defensive weapons. Thus, we could protect our own skies ourselves. I would like just to add something to Marius' statement about the propaganda actions here in Europe. We all see that this will help, of course, to fight the Russian propaganda here in Europe, but unfortunately, this will not help to fight Russian propaganda in Russian Federation itself. So we have to find a way to get to the Russian people, because I think that's an opportunity, a big opportunity for us. If we can provide the right information to the Russian population, the population of Russian Federation, because we don't know where Putin will stop if we don't react right now, and all the methods are good now. Even though we received the help from the military help, the humanitarian help, people in the place are still lacking some basic stuff such as bulletproof vests, helmets, etc. As head of association, we are working close with the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine as well as Ministry of Health of Ukraine, and we are also trying to get the defensive materials to Ukraine, such as bulletproof vests and helmets. And that's one way actually we could be supported. We're working, of course, with the Ukrainian embassy in Belgium, in Brussels, regarding the shipment of those types of equipment. Yeah, that's pretty it regarding how the people feel in Ukraine. I think we are all glad to have the support of the whole world, but we will thank you when the war has come to the end.
Thanks, Nicolas. You mentioned again the shutting of the airspace above Ukraine. I would like to pick up two questions which have been asked by the public on this topic. One saying, please discuss the risk of escalation if Ukraine airspace is shut off. And the second saying, do you think that all public opinions of members of the EU are now in favor of the EU defense and army? Two very relevant questions, I'd say. Marius, do you want to react? Do you want to come in on this?
Yes, thank you, Anne. Well, I think the first question which you're asking is more of a military type of question, and here, you know, we are all in the EU are working with NATO, and NATO as a defense alliance is where these discussions are taking place. So, you know, probably I'm not the best to answer that question, but what I can say is that European Union as such in a week's time has undergone really a transformation of how it reacts to Russian aggression in Ukraine, to Russian war in Ukraine. And this is visible, you know, by the unity and by the actions which are being taken. You, Anne, yourself mentioned the sanctions. sanctions in the financial sector, in the energy sector, in the airspace and transport sector, in the technology sector. It seems, it might sound as something, casual, the words themselves, but the impact is such that, as far as I know, the Russian stock market was not even able to reopen since the beginning of this week. And that is certainly making impact. But of course, as Nicolas was saying, what is important is to have the right information. I mean, our message is reaching the people in Russia, because for the moment they are listening to only a few information channels and watching only a few information channels in Russia. Now, going to the military side a little bit further, what EU has also done is the use of the European Peace Facility that has been created already some time ago for helping a country which is defending itself with defense weapons. So that is already a certain taboo which has been overstepped, and where everyone has gone into a very, very strong unity. So what else we can do, and how further the Europe will be developing in this area? I think to me it becomes quite clear that there is a lot of support, and this is what I'm hearing from various member states. There were announcements by Olaf Scholz, the Chancellor of Germany, that Germany, is making a complete change of course in defense matters. We can hear these things also from the countries which are in the north of Europe, from countries like Denmark, from countries like Finland, and so on and so forth. We have a strategic compass for the EU that has been presented by the European Commission on the 15th November on last year, and there, there are already certain paths which have been put forward, and they are related to the increasing the readiness of the EU member states' armed forces, developing European Union rapid deployment capacity, investing in the key military capabilities, strengthening our capacity to prevent, deter, and respond to hybrid attacks, because this is also something which we need to keep in mind. When we speak about defense, when we speak about our capabilities, it's not only about purely military things, it's also about cyber sphere, because this is where we are very, it's very easy nowadays to find ways into the societies via shutting down cyber things. Everything what we have is in the cyber sphere now. So cyber defense is also super important. So I really think that indeed the views have already changed in a week's time, and they are really changing further rapidly, while the EU is standing together with Ukraine, and while the EU is attempting to do everything it can to help Ukraine.
Thanks, Marius. And I think it's fair to say today that the European security and defense has evolved more in the last days than in the last 2 decades. Most member states have promised deliveries of military equipment to Ukraine, including Luxembourg even. Germany announced that it will meet the 2% of goal of NATO as soon as possible. And the European Union, for the first time ever, and this is a paradigm shift, a turning moment really, is using the European budget to purchase and deliver weapons, lethal weapons, to a country which is under attack. 500 million from the European Peace Facility, as you said. It's really a Hamiltonian moment, if I can say so. A lot is going on. Obviously, the question of the European Union defense will be very important in the days, weeks, and months to come. I think this is a topic which will accompany us during a long time now, but we now have seen that the European Union is capable of showing this unity and this solidarity, which has been lacking in the last time. I think we must be honest about this. We have seen that certain member states have now, they have come closer to the European Union and to what President von der Leyen wants the European Union to be. Can we say today that that the European Union will grow out stronger from this crisis? Marius, what's your opinion on this?
And I think we have to make sure that European Union grows out stronger from this crisis. This is what we have to do. Whether we can say that it will happen like this, yes, I think we can say that it will happen like this if we all do what is necessary to be done. Then it will happen like this, and then I think European Union will be growing stronger if we all stay, if we all stay together, if we all stay united, and if we all stand for Ukraine, and if we do everything we can to help Ukraine, and also, on the other hand, also to develop those parts of our policies which we need to develop in order to be strong, to be geopolitical, then I think we can get out stronger of this crisis. I think what we need also to understand is that we are now 8 days after Russian invasion into Ukraine, 8 or 9 days. And the sanctions, really big sanctions, have been put forward. But what we also have to understand that they will be also painful to us. So we have to be ready for that. We have to understand that those sanctions, as painful as they can be for Europeans, it would be more painful not to have them. And this we need to keep in mind while we are going in this process, and only then we can emerge stronger from the situation.
And I think we can draw a parallel with the COVID crisis, where the price to pay for the lockdown was a price necessary in order to exit from the sanitary crisis. So there will be a price to pay, that's for sure, also for the European Union and worldwide, but it's the price to pay to have this war ended. I take another question from our public, a question saying that there is already NATO weaponry in Ukraine. More is coming, and volunteers from abroad arrive to join the fight. The Russians just started to complain about this. Is it a real strategy to send mostly small weapons to Ukraine that will not halt the Russian advance, or must we not bring serious material there, like fighter planes, air defense missiles, to simply avoid a carnage like in Syria? Who wants to reply to this question?
I think it's maybe I'll start, and I'm sure Nicolas will have to add things. I think the last part of this question is actually is a very good one, and it's a very frightening one too. The comparison to Syria. We have all seen the views on TV, and we know how this conflict in Syria was developing. So we really need to do everything so that it would not be comparable to Syria. But of course, as you know, when speaking about the heavy weaponry here, it's for me, I think it's a little bit difficult to answer, because this is really, we are getting into the military sphere, and I think the previous version, now that I look at the chat and about the no-fly zones, this is about no-fly zone. It's a military term which would not, allow the air forces of another country, to enter. That's a bit how it is. But I'll stop here.
Nicolas, do you want to come in on this? We can't hear you. Your mic is off. You're on mute, Nicola.
Yes, I'm sorry, I had some technical problems here, so I missed the last words of Marius. But I will comment on the question, actually. And, well, the thing is, in my opinion, it's a matter of time when Putin decides to attack Europe. And in my understanding, and as the Russian people say, Ukrainian people say, they all agree on one thing. If Putin sees a weakness, he uses it. So not responding to Putin's attack, Putin's nuclear threat by the Europeans is a weakness. And this weakness, of course, it will be used by Putin in the next steps he will do. But I'm very sure that it's a matter of time when the Europe will be attacked, European Union, I mean. So there is only one question: when we will be ready to respond in the way that Putin's understand?
These are very alarmist statements, and I think it echoes a bit what President Macron said. Le pire est à venir. So it's really all very, very concerning. Yes, I would like to pick up another question from our public. To what extent is civil society from across the EU and the Eastern Partnership creating synergies for help and support in the current crisis? Are there examples of good practices from Moldova or Georgia, for instance? Who wants to come in on this one?
Well, I think what we are seeing in Lithuania is the question, or could you maybe repeat the question just to really see if I take it from the right angle?
Yes, it's in the chat box. So saying, to what extent is civil society from across the EU and the Eastern Partnership creating synergies for help and support in the current crisis? Are there examples of or good practices from Moldova or Georgia, for instance?
No, but I think you know what is happening is a lot of help and a lot of support which is coming from the civil society, and this is we are seeing in all the European countries. And first, you can see it from the protests which are happening in each and every capital of the EU. Then what you can see, and this is what I'm seeing already now in Lithuania, is a very strong support from various organizations which are collecting, you know, financial donations, which are collecting various necessary materials, and we have been speaking about the military materials, but you can imagine that what is happening there, you need, you know, there are in places shortages of food, there are in places shortages of clothing and things like that. So they are collecting it, they are sending it to Ukraine, they are helping in every and each possible manner.
Mm-hmm. I think from the chat box that there are also a few questions regarding the Ukraine accession to the European Union. Nicolas, from what you hear back in your country, is that something which is supported by citizens, Ukrainian citizens?
To be honest, that's not the question if it's supported or not, but mostly it's a question to increase the morale of our army, of our citizens. So we need to feel the support of European Union. And I think that's a clear signal for Ukraine, for Ukrainian people to keep on fighting. And we don't know how and when the war will end, but we will be happy to be one of the members of European Union and stay in the European family, because as nowadays show, that together we are strong, and Ukraine, I think, showed to the European Union that we could be a trusted partner of the European Union.
If I can add a few things here, and I think there is no doubt that that Ukraine belongs to Europe. There is no doubt that Ukraine it has already chosen the European path. As I was saying, you know, it was having for many years already the closest relationship of any third country that could be having with the EU. Okay, we have of course the established relationships with Norway, with other, you know, European Free Trade Association members. But apart from that, Ukraine was having the strongest relationship, and there were even and there is still a big task force within the European Commission which is helping to undertake the necessary reforms and so on. And I think the recent events, they are even show that Ukraine and European Union are even closer, and European Parliament has responded to that. The President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, has responded to that. She very clearly said that you know, Ukrainian people belong to Europe, and I'm sure that that this will be happening. We will be doing everything so that this would be happening.
Mm-hmm. Yes, because indeed we share the same values, and that's really important in order to qualify for enlargement. One of the participants has asked for the procedure in case of accession. I would like to specify that this needs the unanimous agreement by Council. So as soon as this agreement would be in place, then the Commission can take up the follow-up of this accession. But we are not there yet. But yeah, from the Commission side of view, there is a clear willingness to consider this next step. Let me have a look at other questions. What territorial concessions to Russia would Ukraine accept as a condition for the end of hostilities? Should the Donbass be written off? Well, I'm not sure any of us can answer this question. I don't know, Nicolas, do you have you heard about this? Yeah, back home.
As a Ukrainian, after all that was happening in the last 8 days and 8 years, I don't think Ukrainians will negotiate on the territorial integrity of our country. Many people died, but I think it's more political questions. And of course, I believe that there always the possibility of an agreement, peaceful agreement. And I really hope that there will be still diplomatic ways to resolve the war. And I cannot comment now on behalf of the whole nation regarding the territories that could be cut off Ukraine in exchange of peaceful agreement.
Nicola, you are involved in donations going to Ukrainian citizens. There is one question which is a bit related to what you do. Some people donate money directly to the Ukrainian army. Is this a risky donation? Can you say something about that?
As I know, actually, Ukrainian banks are working as usual. So far there is no danger. The only problem is that as we pay, of course, for some weaponry and humanitarian aid in Europe, it takes a bit time to transfer the money, and it creates a delay with receiving the help. Thus, actually, many embassies have posted their account numbers to help Ukraine. So you can always transfer money to the embassy's account in order to help Ukraine. What was it the question? Did I answer the question, or was it precisely in?
That's okay. Yeah, no problem. Can you then please now explain us a bit more what your work consists of? What are you busy with since last week, and how can people help you?
We have reacted really rapidly. We have created different teams that work in different directions. First team is humanitarian help. So everything which is on the list that Ministry of Defense and Ministry of Health has provided to us, we are trying to get from our sponsor. We raise money and we buy those things. We cooperate with different companies, even big companies such as Amazon, etc., to acquire those things. The second team responds to refugees. So we have over 500 families who subscribed on our lists of host families, and who are ready to accommodate Ukrainian refugees at their homes. We are working with the Luxembourg government in cooperation, but there is some structure to be developed, and we will be assisting to Luxembourg government to install a system that will accommodate a large number of Ukrainian refugees. So far, we are being used as a pillow to reduce the shock of incoming refugees. We are taking care of bringing them from the border to Luxembourg and getting them in contact with the host families and providing all the necessary informational assistance. The third team responded for let's say defensive help, everything which is related to helmets and bulletproof vests. So we're working on this direction too. I'd like to mention that we have signed already a lot of contracts with different partners who are raising money for us, which are of course being transferred then to our partner, the biggest purchaser of medical goods in Luxembourg, Santé Service. And we work with the cooperation of the group of Hôpital Berchuman. It's one of the biggest group of hospitals in Luxembourg, and they have provided all the needed infrastructure to collect the humanitarian aid, and also the logistic part to transfer it to the warehouses that are on the border with Ukraine, namely in Poland and Hungary and other countries. As I already mentioned, those are warehouses provided by the Ministry of Health of Ukraine.
Thanks so much. And I encourage people to go and check out your websites for further information and to make a gesture for solidarity to the Ukrainian people who are in our hearts. Thank you very much, Nicolas. I know you will have a press conference also beginning of the afternoon, so we'll follow that also with great interest. I have a look at the time, and we are short of ending our session, but before closing it off, I would like to give Marius the floor for any final comments he would like to make.
Thank you, Anne. I think my final comment is that we need to carry on. We are in this long haul, so we really need to stay united. We really have to wear off and not to allow the tiredness of the situation, because what is happening is that there is at a certain moment there comes a tiredness of the situation, and people are start to look differently at the shocking screens and shocking situations which they see on TVs. So we have to stay put, we have to stay strong in this, we have to remind ourselves about what is happening. We have to remind ourselves that even if it is painful for our own economies, it would be much more painful if we are not carrying on. We also need to remind ourselves how painful it is for Ukrainians and for Ukraine. You know, to respond also to one of the questions which was in the chat, we have to stay on our values. This is not about you know, something because the question is about the citizens with Russian origins leaving and so on. This is not about at all, you know, targeting the people with Russian origin. Exactly the opposite. This is not about the Russian people. It's Kremlin's aggression. So we have to concentrate on that, and you know, and look at the people of Russian origin with exactly the same way as we have been looking, you know, very humane and very normal way.
Thank you very much, Marius, for these very relevant final words. With that, it's 1 o'clock. I would like to thank you all very much for your time today. We've seen many participants in this webinar. Thanks so much. We will keep you informed on any new developments in relation to this crisis and on any new actions from the side of the European Commission. This is a watershed moment for Ukraine, but also for Europe and for the European Union. So let's stand together in solidarity with Ukraine, and let's stand up for the European values. Thank you so much to all of you, and see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.